Well, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. Today we are with the coach and hypnotherapist extraordinaire, Kev Webster, a dear friend and one of the most beautiful human beings I have had the good fortune to meet. I am going to just turn it over to you, Kev, and let you tell our audience about uh, what you do and what excites you. And thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Maryam. Okay, what I do and what excites me. So, how many hours have we got? So what I do, well, yes, I'm a hypnotherapist and a coach. And when I say coach, I mean that from a business point of view and also from a helping people to get out of their own way as well. And as a hypnotherapist, I absolutely love working with people when, they come along to me and maybe they're not sure about hypnotherapy, because obviously hypnotherapy has its kind of like the sometimes people are just frightened of the word, or hypnosis, and maybe Hollywood hasn't done us a lot of favors in that sense. But my job is to put people at ease and to explain what it is that I do, and in a sense, what's expected of them as well, and what hypnosis isn't, because people think they're going to lose control and things like that. So it's about really, I would say half of my job is building rapport. And I believe personally that a lot of the work, a lot of the healing, whatever you want to call it, is done in that rapport building right at the beginning. Because let's face it, if we don't have rapport with somebody, we don't have that connection. So, and I must admit, that's one of my favorite parts of coaching and hypnotherapy is building rapport with people, because I think it's just a wonderful, loving experience.
So, what got you into that? Were you always interested in human behavior and psyche and all that, or?
Oh, that's another big question. Well, when I was kind of like a geeky teenager, I used to read everything that I could find about psychology, the paranormal, anything that was slightly woo-woo. I consumed as much of it as I could. I was building little mini pyramids in my bedroom out of cardboard and putting half an apple under it to test if it would actually kind of mummify it, dry it out, and things like that. So I used to do all these. My mother must have thought, "Oh, what is he doing up there now?" Um, I only set the house on fire once, um, and that's true. But so I was always interested in the human mind and beyond. But when I left school, because I was very much into design and creativity and graphics, I became a trainee engineering design draftsman.
Okay.
It was quite traditional. We had some big engineering firms in the town, and I joined one of the biggest. And I got myself a really good position there, and was kind of earmarked as being a sort of a chief draftsman for them in years to come. But I hated it. It was so rigid. It was engineering, wasn't me. I stuck it out for 2 years
Mm.
and then handed in my resignation and said, I'm off to seek my fortune in the world of art. And
Uh-huh.
much to my father's dismay, and it did come round after a while. Um, and then I got into graphic design, printing, screen printing, lots of areas like that. So that was, I always knew my route would either be psychological or design orientated. And and yeah, and sort of fast forward after having different businesses that were design orientated, I lost my last business back in 2006, and I decided maybe it's time, I was in my early 40s, maybe it's time to take the psychological direction. So I studied as a counselor, person-centered counselor, and and I really enjoyed the experience. Um, I did about 400 hours of counselling practice in a voluntary setting, which was quite. It was a low income area. It was pretty rough, and I found at the end of it, I just wasn't enjoying that. Oh, there's a theme. Um, and so I decided I didn't want to be working as a counselor because, to be honest, the counsellors that I saw around me, their lives were in a great state. They were earning a decent enough money to sustain themselves. And I kind of thought, well, if that's my future, I don't really want to be doing that.
Mhm.
No.
I hear that. So how did the hypnotherapy come into it then?
Well, so then I went back to my original passion of design and taught myself internet marketing, building websites and that type of thing. But I thought I would build myself a quit smoking website as a kind of that seems a good way of working. And I got a young guy to build it for me, and it was terrible. I just thought I need to do all of this myself. So I actually then set out a mission to teach myself everything I could know about internet marketing and built myself a really nice business. And not being one to get too comfortable with things, I thought I wanted to push myself a little bit more. So I decided to take some training in hypnosis, street hypnosis, because I love magic and mentalism, and I wanted to put on a magic show, a mentalism show in my local village hall.
Fun times.
Yeah, so I just thought, well, that's a good thing to do out of my comfort zone, and so I went and did this training, and I realized how powerful hypnotherapy was as a therapeutic tool. And it kind of like brought me straight back to my counseling days and thinking, I can actually help people with this really quickly.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I found myself running two businesses in parallel, marketing and hypnotherapy. And now I'm the marketer to hypnotherapists.
That's right.
So I get to do both jobs for myself and for others. So I help hypnotherapists and coaches become visible online.
You're just really good in, I mean, you're a natural, it's clear that you like to be of service. And as one of the beneficiaries of your light and help, I can speak for myself. You put people at ease immediately, and people can tell it's authentic. You don't put it on. It's very genuine, and it's comfortable.
Mm.
Nobody feels tension or anything like that. I will forever be grateful for having connected with you because you've helped me a lot and you still do. So I'm very grateful for that. So where would you like to see this, what you do go? How far would you like it to go? Or do you have plans for it to grow even more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to keep moving forward. I'm always doing some new training, exploring new things. And so recently, I built with my business partner a, a membership site for therapists and coaches where they can get all of the resources that are recorded and PDFs, all that kind of thing to help them start and grow their business. So I'm very passionate about that, but I get to do that en masse. I get to do that with a group of people in group coaching. So that's very time efficient as well. And the thing is with a lot of therapists and coaches that, they don't really have the budgets to be going for 6 months on a coaching program one to one because they've already spent a lot of money on their training and they haven't left a lot in the kitty for their marketing. And so that's making it accessible to them. From my therapeutic side of things, then over the last year, I've discovered the three principles as an approach to coaching, and um, and so now I'm pursuing that route. And I've already had some mentorship with one of the top people in that field. Joined a few programs, been on a retreat, and now just signed up for another 6 months with another three principles coach. So that is the direction for 2025. Then
Okay.
I'd really like to start to work more in that area than in hypnotherapy itself.
Yeah. Can you
It's
just
more
tell us
aligned.
just a little bit? I don't want you to, have to um tell us all, but just a little bit about the three principles for those who are listening and may not really
Yeah.
know what that is?
Well, the best signpost I could give you is to say if you was to go online and search for Sydney Banks, and I believe the sydneybanks.com has all of his books and his videos. Sydney Banks essentially was a philosopher. He brought the three principles to the world of psychology, psychiatry. He was a welder, I think a grammar school educated welder from Scotland, and yet he had an insight. He had a moment of insight, a real epiphany, and he realized that he needed to share this with people. And so the three principles are mind, thought, and consciousness.
Mm.
And the way that practitioners work with the three principles is, I guess there's two ways. One, you may find during a coaching session that you see a teachable moment. There's a moment when a client sees something and then you get permission to share the three principles with them after you've seen that they've
Oh,
seen something.
okay.
But it's all about clarification and not about assumptions.
Yes.
It's not about diagnosing or being prescriptive. When I sit with a client, I see that client as having all of the resources that they need in their own innate wisdom. They are not broken. They are not, you're not giving them labels. Whatever they're presenting, I believe underneath all of that, that they're perfectly capable of finding their way back home
Mhm.
to a state of um, calm and peace and love and joy and understanding. And so my role as a coach is to help them. So I'm not doing anything. I'm being with them and listening deeply to what they're saying. And I will observe using my own wisdom. So listening without judgment, without in any way muddying the waters with my own experience. And I'll wait for that moment to come where something comes up and I'll share that with them, or they've shared something with me and I might see it as a teachable moment, or they might have a moment of clarity just like that and they'll say, I've seen it. And that might come from my curious questioning.
Right.
So I might be curious about something, but it's very much not counseling. It's
Mhm.
not about being empathic. It's really about entering the relationship in a healthy state, myself, my own well-being, being grounded in what the principles mean, lifting their spirit, and um, and then looking for those moments, listening for those moments, and then and really kind of working from there. And I can only work from what I know.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
the important thing. I am not the expert on other people's problems. That
Right.
there's no technique, there's no strategy, and it really is an unlearning process.
And this is the part that appeals to me personally because sometimes, we're also accustomed to techniques in everything that, and some things do require certain techniques. I'm not discarding that, but um, sometimes we just get so preoccupied with the technique of something that we kind of get in the way of the message or whatever, and it kind of gets lost somewhere, and um, it's not useful to the client.
Mm.
I've certainly. So, do you think, well, I could see you're really, really passionate about the three principles, and it's exciting to hear that you are furthering the experience with it. Um, with regards to hypnotherapy, do you think it might come to a point where you might want to actually teach others how to do hypnotherapy on their own, or?
No, I don't think so. I think there are some incredible teachers, some incredible organizations out there who teach hypnotherapy. And so I wouldn't see myself as being in that role. And I often joke with other therapists who I work with that I'm probably the most unqualified hypnotherapist. I mean, I trained to do it as street hypnosis, not as a therapeutic role, but because I saw the power of hypnosis and then really processed that from a therapeutic point of view, having done all those hundreds of hours of counseling, it kind of fitted into my own style. So, that's the way that I work, but I wouldn't see myself as teaching it as such.
Mhm. Well, as someone who's experienced your hypnotherapy, I think you would be a natural, but I don't want to force you to do something you don't feel connected to. I have to say, I've been somewhere. I mean, I don't want to keep saying it to make it more tangible, but it is what it is at the moment. I have yet to be successfully put under, and it's not for the lack of trying on my part. I've gone to different people for different reasons, and I've experienced a session or two with you, in a group, but I think it's the closest I've ever come to actually
Mm,
going under. And I'm grateful for that because I'm like, I have no idea what it is in my mind that keeps me from relaxing to the point of wanting to go under. But whatever way you've been able to do it has been helpful to people like me. You know
mm.
what I mean? People who feel somewhat resistant and. So if you ever change your mind, do you
Well,
do regressions too? Have people come to you for regressions?
no, I'm very much because my counseling training was Rogerian, so it's very much in the here and now. It's very present moment. And I'm a big believer in working in the present moment because you see, problems don't exist in the past, in my mind. Problems exist in the present. We're just remembering the past. And the truth is, all studies have shown that our ability to remember the past accurately is pretty rubbish.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
meant like regression to the past lives
Okay, yeah. So no, again, I would be very much in the here and now.
here and now, this,
Um, you
this
know,
lifetime.
this moment is the most important moment in our lives. That's what
It
I
is
believe.
true.
I
It
think
is
being present and look at all the sages and the mystics and everything are all about being present.
true,
You
true.
can't be present in the past. You can't be present in a past life, or you can't be present in the future. You can only be present in this moment, which just passed, by the way, and this moment, and it's that kind of that's what I really like. It's let's focus on the present moment and the experience and the feelings in the
Yeah,
present moment. That's really important to me. So and that was my teach, that is how I was taught from a counseling point of view,
yeah,
to get people to be immediate as
yeah.
well.
I mean, we can't hope to create a better past. I mean, that's just not going to happen. And it's
Yeah.
like you said, it's what we remember, and our memories tend to fade a little bit with whatever's happened in the past. So
Yeah.
I
Uh,
agree
uh,
with you on that.
yeah. And I think that um, quite often, if you're working with the past and things like that, it could be down to expectations. It could be down to expectations whether somebody feels as though they've been hypnotized properly or not. So it might not be resistance. It might be that their expectations are a little bit higher than what other people's are. And it's because they think they've not been hypnotized as to why they think they've not been hypnotized. So our thoughts are very, very powerful in convincing us of the reality. In fact, I believe that our thoughts create our reality.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, that's and I think there's a lovely playfulness about that because we all see life differently. We all see a different reality. That's perspective. That is the joy of being an individual human being.
That's true. That's true.
We have different perspectives. I mean, it's also the cause of a lot of misery in life on a both a individual, personal, global scale as well. but we all have different perspectives.
Yeah.
And and for me, that is really fascinating. But at the same time, I still think that we're all connected to one source,
Yeah.
whatever you call that, mind, God, quantum energy, spirit. I believe that we're all connected to one source. And because of that, then it's always possible to find your way back.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're back to the three principles essentially.
Yeah.
That's it. They just cover everything, don't they?
Well, it's simple. And I think there is that human beings, we like to complicate things. It's a great way of marketing things to complicate things, and to sell things. But if we keep things simple, and every time we test that simplicity, we get the same results, then we know we're onto something. And I think there's been, from the very, very early days of the three principles, Sydney Banks would always remind the practitioners that these are simple truths that don't need to be put into technique or strategy or even built into metaphors.
Mm,
There's always a temptation. Let's make it concrete.
yeah.
Let's make it something we can actually package and everything else. And so I read an amazing book recently by a lady called Sheila Massand. She interviewed the people who originally trained with Sydney Banks
Mm.
back in the sort of 70s, 80s. And she interviews them with the same questions, and they answer those same questions, and their answers are so incredibly different about the way that they work with their clients. They're all grounded within the three principles, but all of them work very differently. And I found that really refreshing because it's not rigid, it's not prescribed, it's not like some kind of you're doing it wrong, therefore it's not going to work. There's a lot more to that therapeutic relationship. And
Just
I find
love
that
that.
really powerful.
Yeah, I love hearing this. This just everything I believe in. It's, I mean, this is resonating with everything that I have always believed. And this brings me back just to share something from my side. Several years ago, I can't even count when, um, I was sent a little clip by a friend, saying she was laughing for like a whole time and whatever, and she thought I would enjoy that. I thought of you, and I'm going to send it to you. And I'm thinking, okay, at least it's a positive. She was laughing, she's thinking of me and all of that stuff. And I kind of, you receive a lot of stuff from so many different sources, but this one I kind of felt like since I know the sender, I might as well attend to it, because if she asks me, then I'll have to answer like, did you watch that? So I ended up watching that, and it was a YouTube link to someone who was talking about an energy healing, for the lack of a better term, an energy healing um, thing, modality, if you will. He doesn't like to use that word, but I'll just use it here. That he sort of had kind of fell upon. And I remember watching it, and I had never, ever, ever up to that point ever considered wanting to facilitate or feeling connected to anything energy healing related or anything like that. When I watched this talk, really funny guy, the way he delivers the messages, which was another check mark because I like to be a public speaker as well. And he the thing that got me was, there is no technique to this. Techniques get in the way. This is not a technique oriented thing. You just channel the energy in. Literally after that, I'm like, I think I want to like do this. And before I knew it, I was signing up for his training. And I've been doing that ever since. And this is what I love about it because it is just like you said, it's based on the fact that we all have these abilities. It's just how you arrive at it, is different for everybody. And
Mm,
you just tune in and do it.
yeah. Trust. Yeah. Trust in your own ability and pass the kind of controls over to your wisdom, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that takes some, some faith, some trust to do that. But once you see it happening, and you see the results, then it's a very positive feedback loop. And I'll give you an instance. I worked with a client about a week and a half ago, and I didn't know what to expect in the session. A lot came out in the session, a lot that she didn't expect to talk about or hadn't really thought about. And and then today this morning I thought, oh, I must send out a questionnaire, not for a testimonial, not for a review, but I must send out a questionnaire to those clients that I've spoke to over the last month because I've done a series of free sessions. And just as I was thinking of it, a note came up on my messenger, and it was feedback from that very same person. Now, I just looked at it and I just smiled and thought, the universe works in wonderful ways.
It
It
does.
is so synchronized. And I sent her a voice message back and I said, you just made me smile because I was just thinking I need to send out some questionnaires just to ask, how was the experience? What did they see? What did they feel that they'd seen since? Because, it's not a instant and then it's sometimes, a couple of days later or maybe something comes up and they notice that they might respond differently to that situation. She said all of that.
Oh,
And it was so wonderful to read it. And it was just like, oh, wow. And yeah, that makes it so rewarding. And to know that someone's found some peace over something that was such a turmoil for years, and actually recognizing where it was coming from, the fact that it was coming
amazing.
from the way she was thinking about it. For someone to see that and then act upon it and then feel that difference in every aspect of their life is just magical.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So, how would you apply this to maybe a bigger scenario? I know that this is individual, and we each, as individuals, have our way of thinking and, storytelling to ourselves. But if you were to sort of push this a little, extend the message a little further out, how would you apply something like this to a more global, or can you? Can that be applied to something more global?
Well, the thing that comes to mind is that, and I can't remember who it was, whether it was Buddha or Gandhi, but be the change you want to see in the world.
Mhm.
So I think,
Yeah,
just being practicing, embracing, operating from that approach, that mindset is in itself having an impact, I believe.
right,
If I was working with groups, so narrowing it down more, if I had a group of people I was working like that with, then people say, well, you can't give individual attention to each person. Now, if we look at the principles, and that is that we are all mind, we are all connected to that, infinite wisdom of the universe.
right.
And in a group setting, if one person, if one person volunteers to talk about something, if one person talks about something and sees something, gets an insight, that is felt like a ripple by other people. I'm not saying everybody, but it's
Right.
felt like a ripple. And it may just click in for other people to say, I've just seen that. And when you see it, you can't unsee it. You cannot unsee it. Once you know, you cannot unknow. And it is a gift, an absolute gift. It's a gift that's given to us. Just like every thought that we have that comes through our mind is a gift. then those little moments of insight. So whether it's individual one-to-one or whether it's a group setting, whatever happens, because we're all mind, is in some way felt by others. And I witnessed it the other week in a group session. A lady shared something, and I saw what she'd shared, and I really felt it. And it made me realize that I'd been harboring insecure thoughts the day beforehand. I instantly recognized, so that's what I was doing yesterday. It just come to me, and I kind of laughed to
Mm.
myself because I actually caught myself believing in my insecure thoughts. And it instantly made sense why I was having those thoughts and where more thoughts about them were coming from. And I instantly felt at peace. Those insecure thoughts just dissolved. And I joked with the lady. I said, "You've just saved me £1,000 because I was going to do something to almost compensate for those insecure thoughts. That was going to cost me £1,000, and I didn't because I thought I don't need to because it was just an insecure thought. I don't need to repair or fix something that isn't broken. I only thought it was broken, but it isn't broken, and I saw it in that moment. So there's a good example of witnessing change or witnessing insight and then feeling it as well, energetically. I felt it. It was like, oh, I felt that. And then all of a sudden, I know exactly what that relates to in me. And I recognized it. And I shared it with the group. And by sharing it with the group, obviously that gives that kind of knock-on effect of it's an acknowledgement that something was seen, something was felt. And I think that is so powerful. And it might sound really subtle, but it doesn't feel subtle at the time. It feels like a whack on the side of the head. It's a wake up.
Yeah. So, let's say you actually something clicked here. You said you thought something was broken and you had insecure thoughts. Let's say there is a scenario where the thought is actually accurate. Like somebody knows about something that is, let's say, broken, and the thought is distressing just because you know that that is true. How would you address something like that so the person can come to the insight and be able to make some peace with it?
So are we talking about a circumstance?
Um, yeah, circumstance or involving maybe somebody else,
Hmm.
as a circumstance, like let's say a relationship or whatever. It's
Yeah.
strained.
Yeah. Okay. So circumstances are the outside in affecting us. And
Okay.
what is important is to realize that we don't live an outside in reality, we live an inside out reality. So it isn't the circumstance that impacts on us, it's the way we think about the circumstance.
Okay. So it's still on us.
It's on us. Yeah, it's always on us. And how we think about the circumstance may be that we think about that circumstance um, and we realize that we're allowing some insecurity or some thoughts, habitual thoughts from the past to come in and infect that thought that we were having about the circumstance. That makes it even more real. But the reason it's all more real is because consciousness, we've got mind, thought, consciousness. Consciousness' job is to make whatever we think as real as possible because it doesn't distinguish between the thoughts that serve us and the thoughts that don't serve us. Its
Mm.
job is to create reality out of our thoughts. So, in a sense, thoughts are the architects of our reality because
It
consciousness
becomes things.
makes it so.
Yeah, yeah,
And what it does is it actually it rallies all of the things that we need, like our feelings, our bodily reactions, everything all comes together to make it as real as possible. So we're living it in the moment, the experience. But the thing is, we've still got free will. So if you recognize, because the feeling doesn't feel good, the feeling that you have about this situation with this other person, that feeling is a signpost to let you know that the thoughts that you're attending to don't serve you and that they're not going to serve you. And essentially, they're a misuse of thought. And so by having that signpost pointing us back, so, feelings aren't real. I know people are going to find that controversial. Feelings aren't real. Feelings are thought created. And they're there to let us know the quality of the thoughts that we're harboring. And
Oh, can you repeat that again? That's very
so,
important.
okay, so thoughts aren't real. Sorry, feelings aren't real. Feelings aren't real. They're reflections of or shadows of the thoughts that we're harboring or entertaining or giving attention to.
Okay.
So it's like a cloud coming in through our mind. With some clouds are light and fluffy and they serve us quite well, those thoughts. And other thoughts like come into the mind, which are quite dark and foreboding and very dense, and they cast shadows. Those shadows are the feelings. The feelings is to let us know that there's a big foreboding cloud up there in the form of a thought that isn't serving us. And so if we recognize that as a signpost, and we can recognize the feeling. Oh, that feeling's an insecure feeling. Yeah, I recognize that. It doesn't serve me, that thought. I'm not going to give it another thought. That's an old expression. I'm not going to give it another thought. Wise words, not to give it another thought. And what happens is that when we don't give fuel to the actual feeling, instead of thinking yourself, oh, I'm feeling this way because they did this and they did that and that happened in the past, and that's just adding more fuel to the thought that wasn't serving us in the first place, an habitual way of thinking. So when we say, I recognize that thought as an insecure thought, it's not serving me, it dissolves. And what happens is that it's almost like we let go of that balloon, that cloud, because it only stays if we hold on to it, and it just drifts through the mind and it's out, because thoughts are constantly, they don't stand there for long unless we give attention to them.
That's
And
true.
we give attention to them by wallowing in them, by getting emotionally entangled with them, adding more thoughts to them, looking for more evidence for consciousness to make real. It's kind of like, but here's the thing. When we recognize that we have free will, when we recognize that we can choose to pay attention to the thoughts that serve us and not to pay attention to the thoughts that don't serve us, which are a misuse of thought, that thought flows on by. And what happens is that space opens up some space for your own wisdom. So essentially, quite often, the things that you were worrying about and attending to in those thoughts that don't serve you, because you couldn't find a solution. I don't know what to do. This has happened again. And what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, getting yourself into a real kind of personal mind kind of funk, as it was. When you allow that to just drift off and don't attend to it, you give space for your own wisdom, your own insight to come up to the surface and give you the right solutions. And that is the beauty of it. It's there. The right solutions are there all the time. Were it not for our silly thoughts about the problems. And that's a quote from Sydney Banks, who would say that people would be happier were it not for their silly thoughts.
That's a good quote.
Simple. It was a very simple man in the terms of the way he described things.
That's a great quote. Yes. Well, thank you very much. Just tell us a little bit. I know this is a little off topic, but you mentioned in the beginning that you were interested in creativity and you started out in something creative. So, I mean, you still have a practice of basically like a fun thing to take your mind off all the stuff to plunge into?
Yeah, I love spoon carving, carving green wood. So that's wood that's fresh off the tree, into spoons. as you know, because you have
I own
spoons.
one.
Yeah, and that's such a wonderful thing to. Um, it's something I discovered a few years ago, and I attended a few events, week events, where some of the top spoon carvers from around the world came to teach different styles. You know, because spoons have been with us like from the beginning of time.
Right,
Not a lot of them survived because obviously wood doesn't survive time very well. But you know, I call it functional art.
right,
So it's something that is a thing of beauty. You know, what started off as a branch, literally, becomes this beautiful piece. Well, hopefully a beautiful piece if we don't break it or something. All from the very small chipping away, just little scrapes of wood at a time, using the right knives, curved knives and strike knives. Um, Maybe I'd have something in mind as the shape, the final outcome. It might be elaborate or it might be simple, depending on the wood, because the wood dictates what can actually be made and how thin you can make the handle or the neck of the spoon. You know, so it's a lovely dance of creativity, and it takes time. And the other thing is, you cannot be thinking about anything else when you're carving spoons because you have got razor sharp knives in your hand, or one at a time, hopefully. And if you make a slip, then you're going to be losing some knuckles or you're going to be cutting yourself, which I've done many times.
mm,
Um, you know, at the Spoon Fest, the big carnival that I go to, the event I go to each year, there's about 400 people there. And there's always a big talk at the beginning about health and safety.
right.
You know, we use axes to shape it to start with, carving axes, which are razor sharp, and we use really sharp, you know, razor sharp knives, and that safety is an important thing. So it's a meditative, and then at the end of it, you end up with something that you have had complete pleasure in producing, and then the pleasure extends when you give it away to someone else to use. Now, some people say, I ain't using that. It's lovely. I can't use that. My my spoon drawer is full of wooden spoons that I use all the time because for me, I've had the pleasure. Now I want the secondary pleasure of actually using them. Even the sensation of eating something with a wooden spoon is quite remarkable compared to stainless steel. There's something about it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's though I haven't done any for a while because I damaged my shoulder and I realised that that repetitive injury wasn't going to help it. So that's about fixed now. So the winter I'll be sat next to the wood burning stove. I'll be chipping away at pieces of wood and yeah and chilling out in a very creative and productive way.
I look forward to seeing the result of that.
Would you like me to show you some of the things that I've made?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so let's have a look. So, a few little examples of spoons that I made. Oh, well, there's the first thing I ever carved, and that's a ladle.
That is beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, that took about 2 days. And then and you can paint the spoons as well. So there's a spoon which just needs finishing off. But you
Beautiful.
know, shaping the handle differently. That'd be a good little
Beautiful.
soup spoon. There's one with a little bit more style to it, another soup type spoon. But you can see you know, the sort of crank and
I
the
love,
style, the
yeah, I
key,
love those.
the keel of it. It looks like a boat, and I just love the way that the grain of the wood comes out. And what I'll do is I will rub them with maybe olive oil or walnut oil, and that'll just seal them. And providing you don't put them in the dishwasher or leave them in the sink wet for too long,
Right.
they're fine. But you know, unusual ones.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And then really heavyweight kind of Flintstones
That's big.
style, really big ones, and that would just sit nicely on the side of a pan for you know, dishing out some stew or some soup. So yeah, so many styles. You know,
Beautiful.
from this size up to this size, different woods, great fun. Highly recommended.
Okay. Maybe I'll look into that. I need to travel over there to take that workshop that you take. I don't know if there are that many around here. I mean,
Oh
I have
yeah, No,
Sure there are, but
there are a lot of spoon carvers in America. You'll be surprised.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there are. I just haven't really looked into that. But
No.
thank you so much for joining me, Kev. We are going to put all the information under the video so you guys will know how to get in touch with Kev if you need to and read more about what he does.